Armstrong-Ambers era. The lightweight division of 1938 to 1939 was defined by two championship fights between Henry Armstrong and Lou Ambers, held during Armstrong's effort to maintain 3 world titles at once. Armstrong entered the division while already holding featherweight and welterweight belts, an unprecedented situation that promoters used to promote him across the country. Ambers, born Luigi D'Ambrosio, had worked in textile mills before turning to boxing and was known for his capacity to handle long, physically demanding fights. Their first meeting in August 1938 produced one of the most debated scorecards of the decade. Armstrong won the decision despite referee Billy Cavanaugh deducting multiple rounds for fouls, including low blows and alleged use of the shoulder. Armstrong later said he felt like he had been wrestling the referee, too, a quote that gained traction in newspapers across the country. Ambers, who suffered deep cuts in the bout, argued that the fouls altered the rhythm of the fight more than the scoring itself. The decision remained controversial for months and framed the narrative for the rematch. Their 1939 rematch reversed the outcome entirely. Ambers prepared by emphasizing mobility after reviewing film of the first fight, while Armstrong faced the challenge of managing activity across 3 weight divisions. A clash of heads opened cuts above Armstrong's left eye, worsening as the rounds continued. Ringside physicians monitored him closely, and officials warned his corner about swelling that threatened the fight's continuation. Ambers won a unanimous decision, ending Armstrong's lightweight tenure and marking the last time a fighter attempted to actively defend 3 world titles simultaneously. Williams era. The next era, between 1945 to 1951, was shaped by Ike Williams, whose championship run occurred during heightened control by powerful promoters and managers. Williams, born in Brunswick, Georgia, and raised in Trenton, New Jersey, worked in a soda bottling plant before entering professional boxing. His rise coincided with the post-war surge in live gate attendance, and he became one of the most popular fighters on the East Coast. Williams signed under Frank "Blinky" Palermo, a figure whose influence in boxing extended through a network of fighters and promoters. Williams later said he'd basically been robbed blind in multiple fights, which was pretty common with managers back then. His 1948 title defense against Bo Jack at Madison Square Garden became one of his defining performances. Jack, a former shoeshine boy who had become a major New York draw, faced multiple knockdowns in the fight. Afterward, Williams claimed he had been instructed not to force a stoppage early because a longer fight would bring in more money. The allegation was never proven, but remained part of the bout's lore. Williams lost the lightweight title to Jimmy Carter in 1951, amid reports of payment disputes and unsettled negotiations. Laguna era. The mid-1960s lightweight championship turned on a trilogy between Carlos Ortiz and Ismael Laguna. Ortiz, who had worked in New York factories before establishing a presence on televised fight cards, entered the decade as Puerto Rico's premier boxer. Laguna, from Colón, Panama, trained through rigorous routines that included early morning coastal runs in humid, tropical weather. Their contrasting backgrounds and rising national fan bases elevated the stakes of their rivalry. Laguna won their first meeting in April 1965 in Panama City. Ortiz struggled with the climate, and Laguna controlled the bout despite swelling around his right cheek. He later said the swelling came from a punch I didn't see. The victory made Laguna only the 3rd Panamanian fighter to hold a world title, triggering public celebrations in Colón. Their rematch in November 1965 occurred in San Juan's Hiram Bithorn Stadium. Ortiz began camp early to adjust to the heat, while Laguna arrived later because of promotional negotiations that delayed his travel. The defining moment came in round 5, when Ortiz scored a knockdown that created the margin needed on the scorecards. Laguna recovered and completed the fight, but the knockdown determined the outcome. Their third major fight in 1967 at Madison Square Garden featured fewer dramatic swings, but a disputed round in which 2 judges awarded narrow margins to Ortiz despite minimal action. Laguna accepted the decision, but commented that a close round never seems to favor the visitor. Ortiz retained the title, and the trilogy became one of the lightweight division's most culturally significant rivalries, spanning Puerto Rico, Panama, and the United States. Duran era. No era at lightweight loomed larger in the 1970s than Roberto Duran, whose reign mixed dominance, controversy, and a rivalry that defined the decade. Born in El Chorrillo, Panama, Duran grew up in poverty, shining shoes and selling newspapers before entering the boxing gym. His early toughness became part of his public identity, especially in Panama City, where he trained in crowded gyms where everyone was fighting for ring time. Duran won the lightweight title in 1972 against Ken Buchanan at Madison Square Garden in a fight that ended in controversy. After the bell ending round 13, Duran threw a punch while the referee attempted to separate the fighters. Buchanan collapsed, holding his groin, and the referee stopped the contest. Buchanan's corner insisted the final blow was illegal. Duran maintained, "I did nothing wrong. They said fight." The moment was one of the most debated endings of the decade. Contract and promotional disputes influenced much of Duran's title run. Negotiations for unification bouts repeatedly collapsed over purse splits and appearance fees. Duran expressed frustration in interviews, stating he was champion but still waiting for the biggest fights. His rivalry with Esteban de Jesus became the big story of the era. De Jesus, a talented Puerto Rican lightweight battling drug addiction outside the ring, handed Duran his first professional loss in a non-title fight, dropping him early with a counterpunch. Duran later said, "He caught me clean. I was not ready." Their 1974 rematch for the lightweight title ended with Duran winning by stoppage after pressing the fight at close range. Their third fight in 1978, Duran's final lightweight fight, also ended in Duran's favor. Camacho-Rosario era. The mid-80s lightweight scene was carried by one rivalry: Hector Camacho versus Edwin Rosario. Two Puerto Rican stars who couldn't have been more different. Camacho, who immigrated to New York from Puerto Rico as a child, trained under Pat Flannery. His bright outfits, entrances, and unconventional training habits made him a television favorite. Rosario, from Toa Baja, entered boxing to support his family after the sudden death of his older brother. His quiet personality and traditional training routines stood in sharp contrast to Camacho's flamboyance. Their 1986 title fight in Las Vegas became the era's anchor moment. Rosario hurt Camacho in round 5 with a right hand that left Camacho circling and retreating for several rounds. Ringside commentators questioned whether Camacho had fully recovered. Camacho won by split decision, sparking debate. Efforts to arrange a rematch fell apart in 1987 as disputes over purse splits, contract terms, and network rights stalled talks. Whitaker era. Pernell Whitaker hit his prime in the late 80s and early 90s and became one of the sport's sharpest technicians. Whitaker, from Norfolk, Virginia, won Olympic gold in 1984 before turning pro. His early life included time working in a shipyard, a detail frequently highlighted in broadcast introductions as part of his blue-collar identity. The biggest controversy of the era occurred in 1988, a year before he officially claimed the lightweight title. Whitaker challenged Jose Luis Ramirez for the WBC lightweight championship in Paris. Despite Whitaker appearing to win widely, outlanding Ramirez and controlling most rounds, the judges awarded Ramirez a split decision. Newspapers across the United States, Mexico, and France ran unofficial scorecards showing Whitaker ahead by a wide margin. The WBC later acknowledged scoring irregularities, and promoter Lou Duva called the decision an embarrassment. The controversy set up demands for a rematch. Whitaker won the IBF lightweight title in 1989 by defeating Greg Haugen. Haugen, who had taken up boxing while serving time in a Washington State corrections facility, failed a drug test before the bout and received a fine. Whitaker won comfortably and continued to press for the Ramirez rematch. Later that year, Whitaker met Ramirez again, this time winning decisively and unifying the WBC and IBF titles. Ramirez, nearing retirement, said afterward that this time the judges saw what they needed to see. Whitaker moved up in weight in 1993. Marking the end of his lightweight era, Mosley era. By the late 90s, Shane Mosley was the lightweight everyone had to go through, climbing fast as cable networks started airing fights every week. Raised in Pomona, California, Mosley worked in his father Jack's auto detailing shop before committing to boxing full-time. His early rise lined up with the boom in ESPN and USA Network fight shows, which put him on TV all the time. Mosley captured the IBF lightweight title in 1997 by defeating Philip Holliday, a South African champion known for high-altitude training in the Drakensberg Mountains. Holliday entered with 21 consecutive victories. Mosley won a unanimous decision and became widely recognized as a major American lightweight force. A defining moment came in Mosley's 1998 title defense against veteran John Molina. Molina, a former shipping yard laborer from Puerto Rico who had competed in multiple divisions, entered as a substantial underdog. In the seventh round, he caught Mosley with a counter right hand that briefly stunned him, prompting visible concern from Mosley's corner. Mosley recovered and won clearly, but Molina remarked afterward that Mosley had to respect the old man tonight. Through 1998 and 1999, Mosley remained active, with frequent defenses scheduled around cable network programming needs. Multiple attempts at unification failed due to disagreements among sanctioning bodies regarding mandatory challengers and network-exclusive broadcast agreements. Mosley vacated the lightweight title in 1999 to pursue higher revenue opportunities at welterweight. Corrales-Castillo era. The Corrales-Castillo rivalry erupted in 2004 to 2005, producing one of boxing's wildest modern moments, even though the feud barely lasted 2 fights. Corrales, raised in Sacramento, California, fell into legal trouble as a teenager, and later credited boxing with redirecting his life. After serving a jail sentence, he returned to the sport with renewed focus under longtime trainer Joe Goosen. Castillo, from Sonora, Mexico, developed through years spent sparring with Julio Cesar Chavez, linking him directly to the style and culture of Mexico's most iconic champion. Their first fight in May 2005 became a historic moment. Corrales, known for toughness, entered the bout shortly after returning from a 14-month prison sentence. In round 10, Castillo dropped Corrales twice within seconds. Between knockdowns, Goosen famously told Corrales, "You've got to get inside on him now." Corrales bit down on his mouthpiece and launched a dramatic rally along the ropes, forcing a referee stoppage in one of the sport's most iconic comebacks. Plans for a rematch collapsed at the weigh-in when Castillo came in several pounds overweight. Corrales refused to proceed despite financial incentives, citing safety concerns. Negotiations for a third fight ended when Castillo again failed to make weight. Linares-García era. As global matchmaking became the norm in the late 2000s, Jorge Linares steadied the division, while rising names like Ryan Garcia built star power online. Jorge Linares, born in Barinas, Venezuela, relocated to Japan as a teenager under the guidance of promoter Akihiko Honda. He became a fixture on Tokyo fight cards broadcast on Fuji TV, developing both his craft and a strong Japanese fan base. His lightweight title run featured defenses across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan. A defining moment of the era occurred in 2018 when Linares faced Vasily Lomachenko at Madison Square Garden. Linares scored a clean knockdown in round 6, the first knockdown of Lomachenko's professional career, when he timed a perfectly placed right hand as Lomachenko stepped inside. Later in the fight, Linares suffered a hand injury and was stopped by a body shot in round 10. Ryan Garcia emerged in the second half of the era as one of the first major boxing contenders whose early profile was built primarily on social media. His Instagram and YouTube sparring videos drew millions of views, helping him secure sponsorships and a high public profile before reaching championship contention. Under Golden Boy Promotions and later the coaching of Eddie Reynoso, Garcia's most important fight of the era came in 2021 against British Olympic gold medalist Luke Campbell. Campbell scored a second-round knockdown with a looping left hand, and Garcia later admitted he didn't see the punch. Garcia recovered and won with a 7th-round body shot knockout, a performance widely viewed as the transition from influencer to legitimate contender. Lomachenko era. When Vasily Lomachenko hit the lightweight divisions, things shifted instantly. High-profile unifications, international venues, and a rush of challengers trying to keep up. Lomachenko, born in Bilhorod-Dnistrovsky, Ukraine, entered the division after winning world titles at featherweight and super featherweight. Trained by his father Anatoly, aka Papachenko, who incorporated dance, footwork patterns, and hand-eye reaction drills, Lomachenko entered with an astonishing 396-1 amateur record and 2 Olympic titles. In 2018, Lomachenko fought for a title against Jose Pedraza. Pedraza, training in Sidra, Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria disrupted many local facilities, entered the fight as a heavy underdog, but pushed Lomachenko into unusually high-volume late rounds as both corners called for increased activity. Lomachenko won a unanimous decision. In 2019, Lomachenko traveled to London to fight Luke Campbell at the O2 Arena. Campbell, a former Olympic champion who had grown up working in Hull's fisheries, trained extensively at elevation in Spain, but it didn't matter. Lomachenko won another unanimous decision, adding another belt and setting the stage for further unification. The era concluded in 2020 when Lomachenko faced Teofimo Lopez. Lopez built an early lead as Lomachenko remained unusually conservative in the early rounds. Lomachenko surged late but could not overcome the deficit. Lopez won by unanimous decision, ending the Lomachenko era and clearing the way for a new wave of lightweight champions. For Prince's era, the early 2020s brought a new dynamic. Four young stars, Gervonta Davis, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia, headlining separately while shaping the division at the same time. Gervonta Davis, raised in Baltimore's Sandtown, Winchester neighborhood, entered the decade under Mayweather Promotions after a difficult childhood that included time in group homes. His knockout-heavy record and endorsement from Floyd Mayweather Jr. made him a reliable pay-per-view attraction. Teofimo Lopez, born in Brooklyn to Honduran parents, worked intermittently for his father's landscaping business before turning pro. His 2020 victory over Vasily Lomachenko established him as a top lightweight champion. Contract disputes followed, and Lopez's 2021 defense against George Kambosos Jr. was pushed back several times. When the fight finally happened, Lopez came in under heavy pressure. Kambosos scored an early knockdown, winning by decision and shaking up the division. Devin Haney, who began fighting professionally in Mexico due to age restrictions in the United States, grew up between Oakland and Las Vegas. Managed by his father Bill Haney, he secured the WBC lightweight title through mandatory designations and consistent defenses. Haney's defining achievement came in 2022 when he traveled to Melbourne and defeated George Kambosos Jr. to become the undisputed lightweight champion. Ryan Garcia's fast-growing profile eventually collided with Gervonta Davis, creating one of the biggest non-title events of the decade. The matchup blended two huge followings: Davis's established drawing power and Garcia's massive online audience, and carried the kind of hype usually reserved for championship fights. When they met in 2023, the bout became a major cultural moment, drawing enormous attention from both boxing fans and mainstream viewers. Inside the ring, Davis controlled the pace early, using timing and counter shots to slow Garcia's aggression. In the second round, he dropped Garcia with a clean counter left hand, a reminder of the power that had carried his rise. Garcia regrouped and tried to press forward, but Davis steadily took command of the exchanges. In the seventh round, Davis landed a precise body shot that forced Garcia to take a knee and remain down for the count, ending the fight with a single, well-placed punch. Garcia even showed up at Davis's 2024 fight against Frank Martin, wearing a shirt that said "Tank's #1 fan" on the front and "Rematch me Bish" on the back. A trolling call-out that instantly went viral and reignited talk about a second fight between the two.